can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat Sleep Boxing Repeat.
Welcome back, ESBR Boxing. It's myself and Paul here today, and we are reacting to the breaking news today. Joshua Buatsi and Boxer have parted ways and could be on his way over to Frank Warren's Queensbury. I'll just read out the statement from Boxer, which was confirmed to Boxing News today. To clarify, Joshua Buatsi's promotional contract with Boxer expired at the end of February. His final fight under the Boxer banner was his bout against Callum Smith. Joshua Buatsi is a free agent, and Boxer wish him well in all his future endeavours. That's sort of been supplemented by a story from Yahoo Sports that have linked Buatsi to Frank Warren's Queensbury, and a deal could be completed by the end of the week. Paul, thanks for hopping on, mate. Maybe not the most surprising news, not necessarily in the case of Joshua Buatsi, but that a high-profile fighter has left. There's been lots of speculation that some of these fighters have got clauses in their contracts saying that if they're not fighting on Sky, they're free to go. So yeah, maybe not the biggest shock in the world. Concerning if you're Boxer. A lot of people speculating online this could be sort of the first of many. Just give us your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think it's one of them where it's not a real surprise, as you mentioned, mate. It's like, well, for a start, kind of two things to dissect here. The actual, the parting ways of Boxer. Obviously, if his contract was last fight and his contract was up in February, you obviously haven't. They maybe might have been in talks after that to over a new fight deal, 2, 3 fight deal, whatever it may be. But obviously not Buatsi maybe not happy with the terms. Maybe yeah, he feels that his best interests are elsewhere. Which kind of leads me on to the next bit of rumors of signing with Frank Warren. Well, it's kind of, I mean, if it's realistically, he's already been with Eddie, and we know there was a bit of a fallout there. So he's obviously been a Boxer. So it's like, who else are you going to go to? The Frank Warren and Queensbury Promotions is the obvious choice. Obviously some rumors over his next fight as well, which would be an in-house Queensbury fight. So kind of makes sense, I think. Say that'll maybe be a matter of time just until that's officially confirmed. But yeah, I think no real surprise for me, mate. But as you correctly alluded to, I think more concern if you're Ben Shalom and Boxer, and to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, definitely. I remember when Buatsi signed with Boxer and Ben Shalom, and the main the main reason he always gave was I want to fight on Sky. It wasn't no disrespect to Ben Shalom. It wasn't anything to do with him. It wasn't anything to do with the fighters in the stable. Although they did make some decent in-house fights, and for a fighter of Buatsi's profile, yeah, he's not like a megastar. He's not like Anthony Joshua, but he's a well-known name. I mean, if you've got no promotional agreement, sorry, no broadcast agreement, and your deal's up, it's going to be a real tough time trying to convince him to sign. So when you know the context of it, it's maybe not no surprising. So the assumption is that we've both been discussing that he's going to link up with Frank, sort of the last major UK broadcaster Buatsi's not worked with. I'm hearing, maybe you've heard the same rumblings of a fight between himself and Zach Parker. Does that fight interest you? I think the one we'd really all want to see would be Anthony Yard and Joshua Buatsi, sort of going the way of Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, that one as time goes on. But does the Zach Parker fight interest you? If not, what fights that Frank could maybe get made would you like to see Buatsi in?
Yeah, I suppose it's one of them where like you can make a case for it because I think well, for a start, Zach Parker probably had a bit of a so I probably had it in his own words. I think he said before, like hasn't been an ideal last couple of years in his career. Anyway, at one stage it looked like he was flying. Talk of a Canelo fight and all that there. And now it's just kind of his career's really stalled, I think. So I think it's a big opportunity for him. I feel. Zach Parker. I think. So is it? It's also maybe it's a good fight if you look at it from Buatsi's sense of coming off that defeat to Callum Smith, a grueling fight and was fight of the year contender, incredible. Obviously I think Callum Smith won fair and square, but Buatsi more than played his part. I think maybe he'll feel that this fight against Zach Parker is one. I'd imagine he'll be a favorite and maybe a fairly strong favorite as well. So it does make sense to me in terms of the actual names I would like to see him fight going forward. I think if it's not Parker, I don't know. Well, the Yard one, yeah, that's obvious. I'd love to see that fight. I've always wanted to see that fight. I've always felt Joshua Buatsi would beat Anthony Yard as well. Um, so that's still a fight that I want to see. But again, that all depends on what happens in Anthony Yard's next fight and how he fares. But yeah, I don't know. Is there any other names that kind of stick out to you? Because it's really like you're not gonna. Yeah, I just want to I want to see the Yard fight. Like, is he going to fight a maybe and Lyndon Arthur looked good against Anthony Yard last time out up until he didn't. Do you fight a Lyndon Arthur? He's still a bit of a profile in the UK. A tough fight as well. I think that would be. Is there any other names, British names that you want to see him in with? I don't know. It's really Yard for me, but as you said, there are we getting the light heavyweight version on a smaller profile and a smaller scale of Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, perhaps.
Yeah, 100%. The yard fight I still have interest in, but aside from that, I almost feel like we've sort of had our lot from this domestic crop of light heavyweights. We saw Buatsi Richards, we saw Buatsi Aziz, we saw Yard and Arthur three times, and they're all sort of coming into their mid to late 30s now, that bunch particularly. If it wasn't to be Anthony Yard, I mean, the Parker fight, I've got to be honest, doesn't do much for me. I think Zach Parker, since that Ryder fight's just had a disaster of a time. So if it wasn't to be Anthony Yard, I'd like to see maybe in a year's time Buatsi against Ben Whitaker. If depending on obviously that's Ben Whitaker's promotional situation need resolved. I think that'd be a good fight. I think it'd be quite a big fight as well because Whitaker's profiles flying Buatsi has got a bit of appeal to the casual fan, but sort of leads me on to my next and final point. Paul mentioned Ben Whitaker there. He's arguably the sort of biggest crown in the boxer duels in terms of upside anyway. Do you expect similar news to follow soon for the likes of Ben Whitaker, Adam Azim, Caroline Dubois, Lauren Price? Probably missing a few out here. I mean, Ben Whitaker's been spotted at matchroom shows, almost flirting at Eddie. We saw the video of Hamza Shiraz and Adam Azim, and Adam didn't exactly shut down the talk of him maybe going to Frank. Do you see the likes of those similar news emerging for the likes of those guys and girls?
To be frank, mate, yeah, I think I do. And I think when you look at the like, I know people will say maybe it's him and like, oh, where's the loyalty? They should stay. Maybe some fighters
You got loyalty
gone are
by a
the
dog, man.
exactly, but gone are the days of like name. There's very few fighters who have stayed with the same promoter from like day dot. Um, Especially of late, like obviously there's a good few that you could name and high profile ones like Anthony Joshua being one, obviously being with Matchroom his whole career. But like I think now you're shopping around, finding the best deal. Who's going to pay you the most money at the end of the day? It's prize fighting. Who's going to get you these fights, get you these opportunities? If you want to fight if you're I don't know, if you're someone who's affiliated with a football club and you really want to fight in your home football stadium, who's going to give you the best chance of being able to do that? Yeah. So obviously, boxer have done that for like, for example, Chris Billum Smith and stuff. But I feel that, yeah, I feel that Whitaker, Lauren Price, as you said there as well, Azim, Caroline Dubois, those names that you've mentioned, some others as well, I think probably will end up leaving. I don't know how soon that'll be or when that will come, but I'd say that especially if Boxer don't have the Sky deal and stuff, then yeah, it's looks like it could be a fairly upsetting time if you're Ben Shalom and Boxer losing some high quality stars.
Yeah, you touch on loyalty to promoters. It's easy for promoters to be loyal to a fighter when they're making them the amount of money and Anthony Joshua is. You take the names they just mentioned, if they had, two, three, four losses in the spin, those phone calls would stop coming. So they've got one career. You got to do what's right for you, get the money in because it's you're a long time retired. I know I said last point, but just quick one, Paul. What's the future for Boxer if, as we maybe both predict, that all these high profile stars leave? But really not much further forward on a potential broadcast deal for them. There was reports of BBC iPlayer, maybe occasionally, obviously on a much smaller scale and with a much lower budget than they had at Sky Sports. I mean, from the outside looking in, doesn't look too promising.
Yeah, it really doesn't look too promising, does it? I mean, we could be wrong, and Ben Shalom and others could have something up their sleeve, and it might well surprise us. And I don't know, will they find you know, obviously you see Channel Five are involved with a bit with Wasserman and stuff. Will he find a deal like that on terrestrial TV? Maybe, but yeah, I think the future maybe looks quite bleak. For Boxer, to be quite honest with you, I don't know exactly what the future looks like. I don't want to sit here and say that we'll not see Ben Shalom ever again, kind of thing. I don't think that's maybe the case, but say if you're losing all your high profile fighters, um, you don't really have much of a pull. Then so if you're a broadcaster, you're all due respect, you're probably sitting thinking, why do I want to work with Boxer? Like they don't have any of these high profile names that you can kind of build on. So yeah, I think it doesn't look too promising if you're a Boxer going forward.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Obviously, don't want to put the boot in too much. People's jobs are at stake here. But we're just giving our opinion, and from the fan media perspective, the outside perspective, doesn't seem to be the future doesn't seem to be looking too bright. But Paul, that's all we have time for. Enjoyed that chat, mate. Let us know in the comments, folks, what you think. Maybe where you see some of the fighters we've mentioned going, if they are to leave Boxer, fights you'd like to see them in. What do you think the future looks like for Boxer? Do you think Ben Shalom can surprise us all and turn the ship around? But yeah, like the video if you did enjoy it. Subscribe to ESBR Boxing, and we will catch you next time. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. All the best.